Hello there, and welcome to Discursive Studio's Choose Empowered Agency online course. I'll be your host, Nicholas Tyler Blackwater. We're going to open up the course with an introduction to decisions. What constitutes good decisions? How might we understand the choices that we make better? So yes, the wonder of choice. The fact that we are sentient beings with self-awareness is a marvel of the human existence. Where might this be housed within the body, within the mind? They say it's in the prefrontal cortex. The frontal area of your mind is where you have your decision making, your problem solving. Now we'll look at how this might be impacted your free will, what we might do to make better decisions. Often we're not aware that we're not making good decisions because certain habits, certain patterns might have taken hold of us and hijacked our behavior to a large extent. And so our thoughts revolve around one thing, your fix, if you will, whatever that fix might be. You could be addicted to cortisol, very domineering and controlling of a situation, or you could even play victim on the opposite end of the spectrum, where you're trying to manipulate the situation through playing the victim card. All of these are decisions driven by motivations. So whatever motivation that is, for gain, to avoid loss. Sometimes you might even be faced with a situation where you're gaining anything. You're just trying to mitigate the amount of damage or loss. And a lot of people would avoid a certain element of risk rather than a for sure small loss. They would rather take the chance on an ambiguous risk, whether it be large or big, than face up certain small losses. So it's very interesting. Choice, confidence to certain situations will affect our choices. We might feel very confident in a certain environment. Say you're at a workplace, take command of the situation, you're an authority to the area, and then you come home and it could be a different light that you put in. Thus your confidence will go down, and then your decisions will be affected one way or another, and you'll act and you'll behave differently depending on what motivations that you have at that time. So we'll explore that, the nature of making decisions. Are you making sound, clear decisions? How might we put ourselves in a situation where we make better decisions? This is all before we even begin our journey, so to speak. We're making decisions at every waking moment of. So it's a good idea for us to understand the mechanisms behind that. Our behavior, which again is driven by certain motivations, our reward system, our behavior is so-called hijacked. That's because our reward system is geared towards a certain thing, and this could take forms in many ways, many addictions, many vices. The more self-aware we are, the more aware of others we'll become. So the better that we understand ourselves, and then we'll be covering 6 dimensions of health. 5 of those dimensions are directly within our control and reside within the realm of the decisions that we make. So it's very important that we understand that and not be a victim of circumstance and really make empowered choices, exercise empowered agency. So yes, this is all very much something which makes us human. It's important that we understand choices, the mechanisms behind that. Next, we'll explore the 6 dimensions of health. It's going to give us a bit of a framework on which areas that we would like to explore. Physical and mental are included in the first area of the course. So if you haven't actually decided to make empowered choices, then the rest of this course is actually going to be very difficult for you. And that's why it's so important that we begin with choice and understand that, cross that threshold where you're willing to embark on this journey. Assume that you've made that choice of empowered agency, and we'll explore the 6 dimensions of health. Alrighty, 6 dimensions of health, and the first 2 of which are covered in the second module of the course, and this involves physical and mental well-being. So physical well-being constitutes of good rest, So of course we're going to be aiming for about several hours of sleep. I normally get to bed within an 8-hour window. If I fall asleep right away, then I'm giving myself a good, 7 hours and 45 minutes of rest, if not a little bit over several hours. So anything below 7 hours is going to impact your performance somewhat. The less control that we have, whether it be over impulses of food or whatever type of habits that we might have, and we'll find it more difficult to make decisions and get what we need done. Working out, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is released when we work out, our brains, they need to kind of grow in such a way that new neurons can be developed. So this is where the BDNF comes into play, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, directly associated with movement, working out. It's good for the hippocampus. It's good for growth of gray matter within our minds, the release of cortisol and emotional stability. So the more that we admit anger within our emotional states, one-dimensional we become. So you use that anger to kind of get what you need done. You can even go as far as playing the victim card and acting in an angry manner in that way. The more that we succumb to stress and anger, creep into our decisions, and we might not even be thinking clearly anymore, right? Oh, I wasn't in a proper frame of mind. That is because your emotional states have literally hijacked your mind. So there are states of mind where we lose motor function, we lose cognitive thought. Perhaps we're out of the prefrontal cortex part of the mind, and then we're creeping more back into the impulse areas in the back of the mind. It's said to store the fight, flight, or freeze. Really primal responses, the primitive mind, so to speak, but there's nothing primitive about this area of the mind. It responds to certain triggers within the environment to protect ourselves. It's a wonder of biology that we have these faculties within our mind. So the whole point and the whole exercise of all of this, exploring the 6 dimensions of health, is to remain in the prefrontal cortex. And this is where we think of different perspectives. So it's associated with empathy. The more you understand yourself, first and foremost, you can understand others to a larger extent. Further on in the course, that is our ultimate goal, is to collaborate with other people, to really engage within your community, improve yourself, improve your mind, make those decisions. And I think people react to that as well. It's a bit of an unspoken language. They interviewed a bunch of muggers, these thieves, these vagabonds, and they reviewed CCTV footage, and they asked these thieves, which one of these people would you consider a victim? And how they decided to choose a victim was if they were together. Perhaps they dressed nice, perhaps they carried themselves in a certain way to suggest that they had their act together. It's not the ultimate goal of this course for you to not be mugged in the street. To be very clear in mind, in body, in actions, your decisions, your words, your integrity, they all kind of line up, promotes health and well-being within your life, your immediate surroundings, your social circle, if you will. So all of these 6 dimensions of health, they really play off of one another. Any one area could affect the other. So if you have some social maladies, they could feed into your mental state and your emotional state, of course. Or if your emotional maladies affect certain areas of your social life and so on and so forth. So it's very important that we understand that we are within our emotional state, take stock of that, perhaps create a journal. Journaling is going to be a large part of the activities as we go forward. This is the only way that we could really track our progress, track our thoughts, and act on them, and determine whether or not they're actually creating an impact within our lives. And often it's the most impactful that takes a very long time to manifest, create fruits within our lives. So that's why it's so difficult for people to actually really change, because they're not being affected by those quick hits that they get. And the whole point of empowered agency is to really think beyond the immediate right here, right now, right this second, and just myself, and perhaps to consider yourself in a systematic point of view where you are part of this greater organism, the world, other communities, other individuals. We really do celebrate an individual's unique personality and identity. We don't want to be controlled by our environment, that we want to collaborate with that environment. So it's not just one person sitting around a table spewing out ideas and everybody's just nodding their heads and agreeing and going along. We want collaboration, which involves us to really consider other people's needs, be very super aware about our needs and understanding ourselves. Thus we could apply ourselves in this collaborative state. That's why collaboration is really part of the 5th module of the course.